We're just days away from game one of an epic World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees. And what does Brian Cashman talk about? Not the fact that they're in the World Series, but the fact that 15 years wasn't really 15 years of missing because they were cheated out of their opportunities to get there. Well, we're going to talk about Mr. Cashman and what local media had to say about his wonderful comments.
Jainel Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we update you joins for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You find me on X at Eric Talkstros. You find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Thank you for making us part of your daily routine. Brett, where can you find you at?
They can find me at Htown Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Stros411 on X and on Facebook, and at Back to the Bullpen on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, and iHeartRadio, where, look, I'm always positive, always Stros. And I love the fact that the Yankees are headed to the World Series, and they keep talking about Houston.
Guys, thank you for making us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go and check us out. We're trying to get to 15,000 subscribers, and we can't do that without you, our everydayers, people that listen to our podcast every day throughout the whole off season. We'll be here for all the news, all the rumors, everything that's going on around the Houston Astros, and we'll go ahead and bring the news to you. So today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. That's right. The Astros may not be in the playoffs anymore, but the Yankees, tickets are sky high for Yankees versus Dodgers. So go ahead and download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So, Brett, I know you and I off air were kind of joking around and saying, you know what this sounds like? Well, we would have got away with it if it wasn't for Scooby-Doo and those other kids and everything. But
those meddling teenagers, right?
Meddling teenagers, yes, because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Stop making excuses for why you didn't get it done. And in a little bit, I know this has been mentioned several times. This is not breaking news, but I'm going to look at what the Astros did in 2017 World Series, not World Series, but ALCS, compared to what the Yankees did. And it's surprising the fact that the Astros actually won that series.
Yeah. Well, so get this. In the ALCS this year, the Yankees averaged 0.57 runs a game. And at home, they averaged 6.5 runs a game. I wonder what's going on in New York that's not going on the road. I mean, look, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's a feckless, weak, stupid excuse. If I'm Brian Cashman, I'm making sure I'm leaving one name off the list of what I'm going to talk about. It's the Astros or anything involving 2017. Why? Because the past is behind you and you look forward. The reason why the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield is because you need to be focused on what's in front of you in the car, not what's behind you. And if he had actually been there before or acted like he had been there before, he wouldn't mention that. Yeah, it may be a sore spot in his heart that, the 15 years doesn't count to him. But you know what? It happened. We're done. We're over with. They were also caught cheating in 2017. They just, I guess, didn't do it as well. And you've got some numbers to back up what the Yankees did versus what the Astros did. The Astros had no business winning that series when you look at kind of what happened and what went down and what didn't go down. I'll bring up one person that talked about this because I thought it was great what he said, and then we'll bring in a couple other media members, and I'm going to make sure I bring up the Mark Berman comment first. I love this. Mark Berman still making news. He says Brian Cashman is tired of he said he's tired of hearing how it's been 15 years since the Yankees have been to the World Series. So this bumbling loser of a GM wastes time ripping the Astros for what happened in 2017. Brian, remember the Astros also smoked you in the playoffs in 15, 19, and 22? Like, Mark Berman is going full bore into Brian Cashman, and there's a couple other big media guys that are friends of ours that we know that said something, but this is kind of like the home run in 22 when they said, well, if the roof was closed, that home run wouldn't have gone out. That was a cheap home run. Like they were making excuses. Like, don't make excuses.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So it's kind of asinine if you ask me.
Yeah, and just like make excuses for your own team losing. Don't blame the other team. And the Astros were the Yankees daddies, and a lot of people. This is outside of Houston. A lot of people across baseball have said the reason why the Astros made it to the World Series this year is because the Astros were booted in the wild card round by the Tigers this year. The Astros have been their nemesis of the Yankees. It's yes. Maybe the regular season is a different ball game, but during the playoffs, the Astros, for some reason, have the Yankees numbers. And before Yankees fans come in, Dodgers fans, whoever, yes, the Astros were caught cheating in 2017. We're not denying this. They used the trash can scheme thing during the regular season. There's been reports that have never been totally confirmed about them using in the playoffs, but for most part, from what we've heard, is that they played the playoffs cleanly. And so unless something comes out that I don't know about or I haven't seen, it doesn't matter because, yes, the Astros got their butts whooped in New York. That was a big stage, and the Astros just couldn't seem to score any runs. But how they won at Minute Maid Park, it's even more impressive. And let's go and take a look back, Brian Cashman, at the 2017 series, okay? Because you feel so bad about this. So Game 1, Dallas Keuchel outduels Tanaka. The Astros won 2-1. Game 2, Justin Verlander versus Aroldis Chapman. It was a 2-1 game. Then they went to New York. The Astros got their butts kicked 8-1. Then in Game 4, it was in New York. Of course, the Astros lost 6-4. And then in Game 5, I remember that game still to this day, 5-0 loss to the Yankees. Everything felt like it was the end of the world, is end of the line for the Astros that moment. They go home. Justin Verlander back on the mound for the Astros. The Astros win that game 7-1. And then the Astros win Game 7 with Charlie freaking Morton on the mound. And then you have Lance McCullers come in and get the old-fashioned save. It was a 4-0 victory. But what's really crazy, Brett, is the stats. The Astros during that series, they had an OPS of 565, a batting average of 187. You look at the Yankees, they had an OPS of 621 and 205. If you look at the home runs, the Astros only had 4 home runs. They had 19 RBIs. The Yankees had 6 home runs, 21 RBIs. The Astros, maybe they outpitched them. Sure. Let's go ahead and say that. The Astros pitching staff during that series had a 3.30 ERA. And the Yankees pitching staff had a 2.73 ERA. So if you look at all the counting stats, this is not going to take a deep dive, but everything shows that the Yankees should have won that series, but they didn't.
Oh, yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, to further your point, the bottom line is no matter what happened, you had opportunities. The Yankees had opportunities that year. The Dodgers had opportunities. They had 2 games, I believe, in LA to close it out and couldn't close it out. So that's on you. Like, if you can't close it out, that is on you. That's not some wild eye, conspiracy theory. And, look, there was a lot of stuff going on across the league. And that doesn't necessarily make everything okay or give license to cheating and make it correct or, or ethical. But we weren't the only ones. And major league players came out and said that. That's my only problem with most of this, Eric, is that people aren't willing to acknowledge that others were also doing it. Right. The bottom line is this. Everything that's come out about the Astros, it's been against the Astros. Everything's been negative. Everything's been negative about the Astros, about Houston. And they can't win without cheating. It's clearly not true. I mean, we went to 4 World Series, won 2 of the titles, 7 straight ALCS, 8 straight playoff appearances. But next next segment, I want to talk a little bit about 2019. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Astros. Let me tell you about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, FanDuel has a special for you. You can get big returns today. And even when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page that you're placing your bets. Right now, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. The spread for the Texans versus the Colts is minus 5.5 points on the spread for the Texans and plus 5.5 for the Colts. A total money line plus 184 on the Colts and minus 220 on the Texans. So check out FanDuel today, America's #1 sportsbook. And as always, let's go play the game.
We are super excited to give America, give the world what exactly they wanted. Everybody wanted a Dodgers versus Yankees World Series. This is probably going to be one of the more watched World Series, unless you really liked watching the Diamondbacks versus Rangers World Series. I'm sure a lot of people tuned in for that. But this is definitely a matchup of two powerhouses, and especially with Shohei Ohtani. Then you have Juan Soto and you have Aaron Judge. But before we move off of 2017, Aaron Judge did have, I know that was the season where Aaron Judge also felt that he got cheated of the MVP during that season. But during this series, he batted .250 with a OPS of 1065 with 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. Greg Bird, remember that name? He had a home run. Todd Frazier, of all people, he had a home run in the series. So there's a lot of big name or big and small names that had big matchups. But also, Aaron Judge also struck out 11 times in that series. He had the most strikeouts of any Yankees player.
No, exactly. And I think this is probably one of the better teams overall, even though their lineup isn't really strong from top to bottom. Like you would think a World Series team would. I think the Dodgers have a much better offensive team. But I like Chris's comment here. He said, sometimes dad have to let their kids play. Astros are letting the Yankees and Dodgers have their fun. We'll be back. Or, just like, kind of like LeBron James. He let his son play in the opening game in the NBA, and hopefully he tells his son, you know what, you need to go back to the G League and actually earn your spot. It probably won't happen. But moving on to
Michael Jordan retires, lets the Rockets win the championship 2 years in a row.
Eric, don't get me started on Rockets talk. Akeem Olajuwon would have obliterated Michael Jordan in those 2 finals. He was that good, and I stand by that. Game one of the 2019 ALCS, New York Yankees put a 7 spot on the Houston Astros. Tanaka is 2-0 at that point in the playoffs. Zach Greinke is 0-2 in the playoffs. Now, game 2 ended up going to 11 innings, and the Astros win 3-2. Then the Houston Astros go up 4-1 and 8-3. And where were they? Oh, they were in Yankee Stadium. Game 5, the Yankees get it back. And then what do you know? Game 6 comes along. The Astros win 6-4. Aroldis Chapman takes the L. Jose Altuve hits the walk-off home run, sends the Astros to yet another World Series. And look, Yordan Alvarez in that series batted 45, Eric. 45. Jose Altuve was 8 for 23 with a 348, a 1,000.97 OPS. But there was nobody on that roster, Eric, outside of Altuve that had an OPS. The next highest OPS was Carlos Correa at 780. So it's not like, the Yankees had DJ LeMahieu over 1,000. Shoot, Cameron Maybin made the most of his 3 at bats with the 1,000, OPS. And Giancarlo Stanton, I don't know if you know this, Giancarlo Stanton now has 14 home runs in 34 playoff games.
Right.
That dude, I wouldn't pitch to Giancarlo Stanton. Hey, Dodgers, don't pitch to Stanton when you're playing him in the World Series. Even though I say I hope both teams lose, I really do hope the Dodgers win, because then they'll stop talking about the Astros, and then we can say, see, Now it's not 15 years, Brian Cashman. It's 16 years. Let's see what one more media person said, Eric, and I'll get your take on the 2019 World Series or ALCS. I know you got something to say about that. This next one is from Adam Clanton. Brian Cashman is such a limp one. His organization absolutely also cheated and still lost. I also happen to know for a fact that he said Jeff Luhnow was the best GM in MLB. The Astros remain rent-free in your heads, and you haven't even started the series. There you go. Thank you, Adam Clanton. I love what he says. Now, we'll share the last one in the last segment, but I had to blur out a little cuss word in there, so there's no foul language on it, but you could probably imply what's said. But it's from our friend Brian Lima with the Sean Salisbury show. But Eric, what do you think? I mean, 2019 was a fun series for me.
Yeah, it was a painful one because it led up to what happened versus the Braves. So I know I was at that series.
No,
the
that
Braves
was
matchup.
that was 2021. No, 2019 was the
Oh, that was
Nationals.
okay. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
So-
That's
So
I just
2019
remembered.
Okay.
Pain.
Yes. Well, so let's focus on 2019 ALCS, not the World Series. But that ALCS was
Okay.
a fun ALCS because of the way we won it. I mean, were you at that game? I wasn't at that game.
You're talking about it was a game 5 or game 6 where Altuve hit the home run? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Were you there?
Yeah. I don't remember. I've been to so many playoff games. I don't even remember. I don't think so. I think I was at home, but I think I went to game 1 or game 2 of that series. So I'm not sure, but I just remember that I was super excited. It was like, I'm glad that the Astros did this again. But before we move on to the next time the Astros beat them, I do want to talk about 2015. I mean, we are talking about a super team and everything with the Yankees, and they're beat at home in a wild card game. Remember back when we had 1 game wild card? Dallas Keuchel dominated 6 innings, 3 hits, 0 runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. This is a team that had Jose Altuve, George Springer, Carlos Correa, and the rest of the guys. Colby Rasmus, Evan Gattis, Carlos Gomez was patrolling center field. Luis Valbuena was out there. You had Chris Carter, Jason Castro. You had Jonathan Villar, Marwin Gonzalez, to name a few people. Tony Sipp was on this team. Will Harris,
Wow.
Luke Gregerson. This was a team that defeated the mighty Yankees back then. So as far as I know, the Astros weren't cheating back then, were they?
I don't know. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the bottom line is this. When you've got a goal at hand, when you're focusing on winning the World Series, you need to focus on who you're playing, not in the past, not like get over it. You know, I mean, come on, be a big boy. It's okay, Cashman. 15 years is a long time for the Yankees, and we're the team that kept them out of a decade where they didn't go to the World Series for 10 years. That had never been done. So we did what no other team had done for the baseball world. So you're welcome, baseball world, Yankees haters. And hey, before we go to the end of the show, I know we're only in the second segment, but Fernando Valenzuela passed away. Fernando Valenzuela passed away. One of the great pitchers, rookie of the year, lefty, one of the greatest Mexican-born pitchers probably to ever play the game, that probably will ever play the game. Phenomenal guy. There's a Vin Scully clip of him going out to do the first pitch, and he says he injured his rotator cuff and he calls out for relief help. And it's just one of those things where you're just like, wow, like guys that we watched growing up, that I watched growing up, and I was pretty young when he was, at the top of his career. I was young, but I remember watching him play. Now he's no longer with us.
So in the next segment, we're going to go ahead and talk about 2022. I know that you put up a good video about Venezuela, about how it was a big moment. But guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go and subscribe to us. Make us a big first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go and check us out.
Go to Game Time today, download the Game Time app, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. I've told you about Game Time over and over again. I promise you, I know some of y'all have used it because you've actually told me through social media. Thank you for Game Time. Thank you for the code. And I'll give you that code at the end of this commercial. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy MLB tickets to every kind of event in your area. Views from all seats in the venue that you're going to, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, so much more. You've got to go download the app today. It's Game Time. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Hey guys, thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check us out. Go and make us your first listen. Go and subscribe to us on YouTube. Help us get to 15,000 subscribers. Go ahead and download the free channels app on your Amazon Fire TV stick, and you can watch Brett and I on your whatever you have, whether it's your big screen TV or your projector, wherever you want to watch the Locked On Astros podcast. We'll be here all season, all off season, all postseason, all preseason. Whenever it's Astros time, it's just tune into the Locked On Astros podcast. So let's go and tune to 2022 when the Astros cheated the Yankees out of going into the playoffs or going deep into the playoffs. So going back to the World Series, whatever the excuse is, 15 years drought, it's all the Astros' fault. But this was definitely a interesting series. It was a 4-game series. The Astros took care of business. The Yankees won. How many games would you call that a sweep? I think you call that sweep, right? When you win 4 games and the other guy wins 0. I think that's called a sweep.
That was a big debacle on the Yankees' part. And, it actually is our fault. We kicked their tail. It wasn't even a series, to be honest with you. I mean, outside of Harrison Bader, homering in the fifth, for the 5th time that postseason in Game 4, who are we looking at as the Yankees stars? Nestor Cortez, 2+ innings. Garrett Cole was pretty much a no-show. Aaron Judge, what did he do? He made the final out of Game 4, but yet he had 62 home runs that year, but he couldn't do it in the playoffs. And so, it's just one of those things where, at the end of the day, we beat you. We're better than you when it comes to the playoffs. And until they beat us in the playoffs, they can't say anything. You know what? And like, to the Rangers credits, Rangers fans are like, you've never beat us in the playoffs. And I'm like, well, you got me there. I can't deny that. So I guess the Rangers own us from one ALCS until we beat them. Hopefully we never have to play them again. I don't know if they ever return to a deep postseason run. But Eric, do you think this team?
I'm sure they're going to come back at some point. The Rangers will return
at some point, but I don't know. Okay. Good job, Eric. Always positive, always Rangers, right?
No, it's not that.
I'm
you
joking.
can't.
I'm joking.
I'm
messing with you. No. Yeah, I'm totally putting words in your mouth. But Eric, do you think this team next year, if they construct things correctly, if they bring back Bregman, if they bring back Kikuchi, if they have the pitching staff they have, Tucker has a solid year, maybe they go out and get a center fielder. Do you think this team can contend for another World Series next year? I'll tell you right now, I think they can.
I think they have the nucleus, especially if they do bring Bregman back. I think Bregman is the glue. I think when you have people like Roy Oswalt, Dusty Baker, you just have all these people coming out, and they don't have any skin in the game. But it's like they know how big a asset that Bregman is. So I think if he comes back, I think if the starting pitching especially comes back healthy, I think that this will be a big plus. I know some of the pitchers won't be back at full strength until mid-season. So I think that if you look at the rest of the division, the team that might worry me the most is probably the Mariners. I don't think the other teams are really going to put too much competition out there. but it really depends on where the Astros really are at this moment. Like if Bregman goes and they don't find a replacement for him, it's hard to replace what he does, not only at the plate, but also on the field. And can I guess if they bring back Verlander, what Verlander is it could be, I still don't think they do. Kikuchi, was that a flash in the pan, or is that really what he's going to be with Houston Astros? And I think that does, if when you have the negotiations, I'm sure that's going to play a part, because he's like, I've had the most success. I mean, I know he's had successful seasons, but he's never been as dominant as he was for that stretch with Houston Astros. So can this team contend for another World Series? Yes. Can they knock the Yankees out again next year? I mean, they didn't knock them out this year, but you know what I mean. But could they have a chance to knock them out again? Sure. But I just think that the Astros just have a way against the Yankees in playoffs. And
Yeah.
I'm glad the Yankees are there. This is a team that a lot of people like to root for. A lot of people like to hate. But this is going to be a all-star of a matchup in the World Series.
Oh,
And let them get whoever wins, like you said. You hope both teams win, but somebody's got to win.
no, I hope both teams
out.
lose, not
Whatever.
win, lose.
Well,
I hope both teams lose.
you know, man.
So here's a couple things. Teoscar Hernandez mentioned here. I don't mind that name. I really wish Teoscar Hernandez would come back to the Houston Astros. What's funny is he's a free agent after this year, and from 2030 to 2039, the Dodgers are going to be paying him like $880,000 or something crazy like that for those 9 years. Now, a couple points of interest in the news. There have been several people questioning the age of Juan Soto because he's 25 going on.
Was he not 22?
He's 25 right now, but a lot of people are saying that he's 30. There was a lot of speculation when Albert Pujols was in the game that he was 4 or 5 years older than what he said. So you've got that in the news. You know, you've got a fun, I mean, there's a lot of things that we could look at and talk about all season long. You know, we just did not renew the contract of Joe Thon, who I think was an excellent coach. I actually had him on when he was with the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. He moved his way up through the system, and it's kind of a surprising move because I think they like moving either former players or relatives of former players up through the system. And so Joe Thon's contract was not renewed. It'll be interesting to see who they replace in AA. But that whole thing, I just saw that stuff on the Juan Soto speculation. Like, this is hilarious. Like, if anyone ever actually found out that he was not 25 when he's being valued at $517 million for 14 years, can you imagine paying him until he's 30, till he's 44, when he's really 30? That means his decline will start around 33 instead of 37 or 38. I think that's interesting. I got one more person to share. It's our friend Brian the Lima. And he said, first World Series appearance for the Yankees since 2009. Brian Cashman is talking about the Astros while also knowing his team was cheating in 2017. What a Dodgers in 4. I love it. I really hope the Dodgers, dude. And also, the Astros are supposedly going to be renaming the park Dakin Field. They're going to call it the Icebox, I hear. It's going to be an air conditioning company. Number one, get a better AC system in there. Number two, can we get some Japanese players as a result, please? So, look, we could have Yusei Kikuchi and more Japanese players. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, I think there's going to be some cool things for us to talk about. And you know what? We may get on here and talk about the World Series a little bit because it is probably going to be fun. Oh, last thing. Shohei Ohtani's ball, 50th home run ball, $4.4 million. It's a record. And there are 3 people suing the person who sold it for ownership rights because they claimed ownership of the ball. They didn't even have the ball in their hand, but yet they're saying it's their ball. One guy bounced off his hand. He's claiming ownership. Another guy kind of touched the ball while they were going for it, and someone else was near it or coughed on it or something. But the dude made $4.4 million off Shohei Ohtani's 50th home run ball. Wow.
could have, should have, whatever the phrase is. But guys, that's all we got for this edition of Locked On Astros podcast. Go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify. We'll be here watching the World Series. We'll be here talking about what the Astros need to do this offseason. We'll be here with you because you are our number one fans. You are our listeners. You are everydayers, people that listen to our podcast. We do appreciate it. And so hopefully the Astros will make some big splashes this summer. Or this, this off season. If they don't, then we'll still talk about what could potentially happen. So, guys, that's all we got. My name is Eric Huysman. He's Brett Chancey. We'll see you tomorrow, and go Astros.
Go Astros. Oh, and for what it's worth, go Dodgers. Go Dodgers. Yankees suck.
I can't do it.
Yankees suck.
I can't do either.